Hello and welcome everyone, a new episode of Money Means Business. Today we are going to continue what we have started last week regarding the mega projects, the development process, the very long path we already started during the past 10 years to turn Egypt into another Egypt, into the new republic, into Egypt 2030. And today we are going to see the opportunity having with us an economic and agricultural expert in the very same time to speak more about the national projects in the field of agriculture. Right after the short break, we are going to turn back with more, as we do have a lot to speak about, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Before we start, let me first welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, Engineer Hassan Shaban, our economic and agricultural expert. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
And since we're a high-profile member in the syndicate of farmers, and you are all the time acquainted and all the time following up what's going on regarding the agricultural arena here in Egypt, let's start with the Egyptian agricultural experts, which witnessed a robust growth in first half of 2023. This is a report which was released today from the Ministry of Agriculture, and it really details a lot of numbers, all for our best interest, and particularly saying an increase of 717,896 tons of agricultural exports increase compared to the previous year. Sir, how do you see this, and how do you see this number?
Well, we're on the right track. Actually, we were pushing to increase the percentage of crops that we export to Europe mainly, and I think we managed in the first half of this year to score the target that we were shooting at. But I think we're going to be more ambitious. And I think the coming half will see or will witness really a higher percentage of growth, because we're approaching the winter season. And once we enter the winter season, we're going to see a big amount of crops, oranges and so forth, exported to Europe. So this will push the number to be higher than what we scored in the first half of this year.
Yeah.
We're on the right track. Hopefully we would be able to have a look at the agricultural plan, generally speaking, because I think in the near future we're going to have a closer look at the crops that we really require locally, and
to meet the local market needs.
Exactly.
Sir, to add to what you're saying and to elaborate on that, because this was very eye-catchy, at least for me, when the Minister of Agriculture expressing his gratitude to the Egyptian farmers and exporters, and also commending the efforts of the Agricultural Quarantine Authority, the ministry-affiliated laboratories, and the Export Council. How do you see there should be full coordination among all these bodies? And what's the homework of each, if we can simplify this to the viewer?
Actually, all three entities should really work very close together. In addition to these three organizations, actually we should add the cooperative organization that actually supervises the crops in the different villages in Egypt, and distribute fertilizers, and should provide agricultural supervision on the crops to meet the specifications required and make the crops suitable to be exported.
Yeah.
I think we need to develop new jobs, for instance, like packing, like modern harvest systems,
techniques,
right? Because this will improve.
Or mechanisms, to be accurate.
Right.
But sir, I mentioned this in specific because I wanted to focus on the scientific base. The labs, the ministry-affiliated labs, meaning that it's not haphazardly. The process is not haphazardly taking place.
Definitely, yes.
The type of the soil, the type of the crop suitable for this soil, the geographic locations of each, the crops which should be cultivated or planted in this specific area. I mean, Upper Egypt is not different than the New Delta, is different than the seaside, exactly, or the desert. I want to focus a little bit on that, because with all my respect to our farmers, who are the base or the cornerstone, the pillar of our country, the backbone of our country, but yet to add this scientific way of dealing with things is very crucial, and we do not have the luxury to waste time.
Very good. This is a very good point, actually. I have to illustrate on this. Actually, what controls the crops in Egypt is the type of soil, as you said, the weather, water amount required for this particular crop. So, in my humble opinion, we should allocate areas for crops that we will export. And this will help us to use modern techniques in harvest, for instance, use new technologies, because unfortunately in the past we committed a mistake by dividing our land to small ownerships, and this actually created a big chaos. And
this is not a mistake. This is a catastrophe.
It is. It is.
It's disastrous.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, so.
And it ended with the loss of strategic crops like cotton, for example.
Exactly. I mean, you know, when we established the factories in Mahalla, Mahalla was Mahalla, but Mahalla became Al-Mahalla Al-Kubra when it became the center
So
of...
was Kafr Zayed.
Exactly.
So-
So actually, the delta was the area where we grow our cotton.
Industry castle.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So actually, I really recommend with all my heart to have a closer look at the agricultural map as a farmer, because I think, well, like when we have a new project like Arif Al Masri or the New Delta, all of these,
Or Tushka.
or Tushka, for instance, the areas close to Tushka in the south, all of these areas are suitable to grow certain crops and have certain industries along with these crops. What I really liked in Huwainat recently, they had an excellent crop of potatoes, and they established a plant where actually they use potatoes and produce potato powder and so forth. This was excellent. This helps even maintain a decent standard of prices for the farmers, because all of these industries absorb the extra amounts that are in the market. So you maintain the amount of crop in the market that the consumers require, and all the extra goes to the factory. So you actually maintain a reasonable amount of profit for the farmers and create industries, because the raw materials, in my opinion, not because I'm a farmer, but this is, I think, very true. The main raw material for our industry in Egypt is agricultural crops.
Sure.
We should have a lot of industries based on agricultural
And we do have a
products.
strategic goal
Exactly.
of localizing our industries, of
Exactly.
instilling our industries, and to depend on our local component. And you mentioned a very good example, potatoes. Potatoes, I can consider it as a strategic crop,
Exactly.
because it's really included into food, a lot of food industries, snacks and whatever. And even since we mentioned the Ministry of Agriculture affiliated laboratories, there's a special laboratory to treat potatoes fungi, for example, because this is something which we should take care of if we want to continue on the same track to have potatoes, some of the main crops, as an added value to our agricultural exports. But sir, you've given me this example before and I really liked it, the comparison you gave me between sugarcane and stevia.
Yes. Well, the importance of growing a crop like the stevia is to close the gap of importing sugar to Egypt, because actually the bill of importing sugar is high, and we need to minimize this amount. Our economy today is a little bit fragile, and we cannot really put a lot of pressure over our economy. So the stevia and the sugar is a good example. We should grow stevia, and we have already succeeded in doing this in the research centers that the Ministry of Agriculture had. We have a lot of things. Let me surprise you and tell you that remember there was a plant that I mentioned before that grows directly on you could irrigate it or directly on salt water, seawater. The importance of this plant is that you can take the gene that is responsible to digest sodium chloride and implant it in another genetic chain like wheat or rice. And this will allow us to grow rice and wheat and
Irrigated by
with
salt, by
water.
seawater. Sodium chloride, to whom it may concern, sodium chloride, simply it's salt. And what we are talking about now is simply the core of genetic engineering, how we can benefit from genetic engineering, to take the gene which is responsible for allowing this plant to be irrigated or to drink salt water rather than pure potable water, and to have this gene implemented in other strategic crops like wheat or rice. So this can solve huge problems, and of course fostering foreign exchange reserve, supporting the national economy, because we are going to depend on this and on our own efforts not to import these strategic goods. Did I do it?
You did very well.
Exactly. I mean, because we want to simplify the whole issue for our viewers.
Yes, very true.
Sir, do you want to add anything before leaving this issue regarding our agricultural exports?
Well, actually, we ought just to read the climate map as well, because Egypt did not suffer from severe winter last year. It was a very mild winter, and we should invest this to our benefit. I think we ought to be very ready, meaning we should invest this and take the opportunity of mild weather and grow crops like corn, because corn is a fantastic plant. You can grow it, and I know that you have an agriculture background. You can grow corn 3 times successively. And if you were not ready with the seeds of corn early enough, you will waste one of the three
seasons.
Unfortunately, this is what happened this year. We did not have a severe winter, and everybody was waiting for cold weather. But I would like to recommend something also. Everybody is suffering today from the cattle food and so forth, and I think the government should, when they give a license to anybody to grow chicken or livestock, whatever, to give him land to be responsible to grow his own corn and the soybeans that he requires in
an integrated program, you mean?
Exactly.
So
right.
Because it's a circle.
Exactly.
Every element is related to the other in a way.
Yes, and this would relieve the government from cultivating areas with a high cost. So everybody will take a license and land at very low rent, whatever, to help them produce the raw materials required to feed cattle, whatever they're going to grow. And at the same time, this will add to the agricultural map that we've cultivated additional land.
Now let's move to some other good news. Minister of State for Immigration and Egyptian Expatriates Affairs, Her Excellency Soha El-Gindi, said a total of 1,000 Egyptian nationals living in 56 countries registered to attend the 4th edition of the country's expats conference, which will kick off by the end of this month. And this year's edition is expected to have the highest number of participants compared to previous editions, as reflecting the ministry's dedicated efforts to engage with expatriates who wish to connect with their country. The conference will feature field tours to various industrial cities, key investment zones, providing expats with first-hand information on potential investment opportunities. Sir, how do you see the number? How do you see the will to invite more Egyptian expats? As you know, I'm always saying that any Egyptian who left Egypt, he left Egypt physically, but spiritually, no. He or she is all the time following up what's going on in Egypt, and they are really seizing any opportunity to return back in a way, whether physically or even with their investments, or to have something to relate them back to their homeland.
Well, as the late Pope said, Egypt is not a country that we live in, but it's a country that lives within us. So actually, I welcome all the Egyptians who are coming to participate in this conference. Regarding this issue, I would like to remind everybody that we had a similar conference many moons ago, and we created a company called Al Masriyin Fil Kharij. And I would like to, use this experience to improve the coming, era of cooperation between Egyptians abroad and in Egypt. I would like to have, ideas out of the box, not conventional ideas, but new ideas. I think what we require is mega companies, investment companies, to close certain gaps. Let me use an example for what I'm saying. Fishing. There is a new idea and a new method of fishing in open seas, in oceans, like for instance, the Indian Ocean, the Gulf of Aden, and this area, which lies
Implemented in China, I think, or to be accurate, South Asia.
South Asia.
South Asia, yes.
They actually use old oil tankers, and they renovated and turn it to a moving, mobile,
huge
and right, and like a barge with a refrigeration system, and preparing kits for cleaning fish and so forth. And we have a huge amount of small fishing boats in Rashid, in Damietta, in Alexandria, in Port Said, in Suez. All of these boats actually could be associated with this tanker, and they could fish in a place called close to Bab el Mandab, south to the Gulf of Aden. This will be a strategic presence in this area for us. All of these small ships could fish and just dump the what they've fished into this huge tanker.
And we purified our lakes, and they are all ready.
Yeah.
When it comes to El Manzala, to El Brulus, to whatever lake is, you are going to find the case totally different. So this is one of the very promising fields.
Exactly.
In addition to
what we have already in our lakes. And the method of fishing is a little bit different, but it will put us internationally in the arena of international fishing. We could export some of the fish that we actually fished in this particular area, prepared, and ship it every 2 weeks or 10 days to Egypt. So actually we need to have new ideas and present it to the Egyptians who are coming.
So if we do have the agenda of this conference, what should be made or should be written first? I mean, what should be our priorities? What should be the first chances in front of them?
Well, we need actually also to really consider seriously manufacturing solar panels in Egypt, because we're going to need renewable energy.
So investing in the field of renewable energy.
Exactly.
And I want to just, as brainstorming, what should be in front of them? I mean, what are the priorities? What we do need? Because, sir, it's not our economy, it's the global economy. With the Ukrainian-Russian issue, with before that the COVID-19 and lockdowns, with inflation, with interest rate hikes, food insecurity, you name it. The whole world is really suffering. So we do not have, again, the luxury of not cooperating together, of not having joint work. So,
well, let me put it this way. Egypt, when you have to consider the raw materials that we have in order to establish industries. We have something very common, very popular worldwide, which is the Egyptian salt. We produce a lot of salt, whether from Sinai or from Port Said or whatever. And in my humble opinion, we could establish an industrial center in Sinai to produce bromine out of the salt produced in Sinai. Bromine is a substance that goes into medicine. It's a tranquilizer, and we import a lot of bromine from abroad. But this is an industry that definitely Egypt requires. So let's not look into the production of salt as salt only, but as a raw material to produce a lot of substance out of that. We need definitely a good plant for potassium. All of these, potassium is the magical substance.
Silicon from the black sand. Quartz.
Silicon is important. I wanted to illustrate on this a little bit. It's about time to get into the integrated circuits and microchips and industries. We will not be able to, start from scratch. We need to start from where other people have ended. So there is nothing wrong with that. And I think we need to work hard on these issues, the unique industries, agriculture that we could use the products in producing canned and preserved.
And our Egyptian expats can be the go-between.
Exactly.
The missing part of the circle. Exactly. So to transfer this kind of technologies in many fields, they can do a lot. And again, it's going to be a win-win situation.
Let me just draw your attention that in Africa they have a problem with a refrigeration system. They don't have cooling facilities, so they cannot really import fresh goods. So this is a good chance for our canned industry. All the food that we could actually export to Africa through a highway that connects us directly to the heart of Africa from east to west. Everybody's always talking about Cape Canaveral, Alexandria Road. I'm talking about Safaga, Senegal Road, laterally. So because all of these African countries do not have shores, they're closed countries. And our ports on the Red Sea could be a logistic location.
We are the gate to Africa.
We need
in a way, at least.
We need to examine closely what our neighbors require and do that. I think we've neglected the shores of the lake behind the High Dam for so long. I think
this is not the case at all right now.
Well, why not? We're working fine.
Yeah.
But I really would like to see some dredging activities in the lake behind the dam to get rid of the silt and mud accumulated in the entrance of the lake, dry it, and we could actually sell this dried soil.
Silica.
No, in agriculture. We're talking about
agriculture, okay.
So actually, in
it
England,
fertilize the desert.
Exactly.
Simply turn it from yellow to green.
Exactly.
Amen to that. So, sir, before leaving this, I think in every trip abroad by the president, he is keen to meet the chambers of commerce there, to meet the business community there, to meet with the Egyptian community in any place. And particularly, for example, because this was his last trip outside, when he was invited by French President Emmanuel Macron to participate in the investment summit in Paris. Meeting with the business community, making this propaganda or marketing for Egypt as an investment hub and in all fields, in all domains. How do you see this as a way to tell the whole world Egypt is ready to be one of the investment hubs, not only regionally but internationally? What we call the sidelines diplomacy.
Well, let me put it this way. I think Sinai is the center of gravity for this whole area, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Arabian Gulf.
Yeah.
And I think Sinai should be the link between East and West. And I think the shores of the Suez Canal on Sinai should be used and utilized better than what it is. I think we have Tafri'a up there close to Port Said.
East of Port Said,
Right,
Sharq
right.
al-Tafri'a, yes.
But I think this Tafri'a should go all the way on this east bank of the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
All of this area should actually be storage facilities for containers. You make side jetties. So
Logistics.
Yes.
Yes,
You need to
logistics.
give privileges to a lot of ocean freight companies to store their equipment and containers in this area, because this area is really a strategic location, and so far we did not really utilize Sinai to our best interest.
What's going on even as we speak in Sinai is miraculous. The tunnels which are now connecting Sinai to the delta, it was a kind of science fiction. Now the case is totally different.
Yes.
And we received the Fakhr al-Qanah only a few days ago, I think last week. And this ship, it's coming from Germany, and of course with some of the fruitful cooperation between us and Germany, and it's going to participate in the maintenance of boats, for example. So logistics, maritime industry, the investment zone, the industrial zones there. So this area turned really to be source of pride for all of us.
Well, I'm very ambitious, and I really like to see Sinai as a bank center, like an Egyptian Wall Street. I think we need Sinai to attract a lot of investments, a lot of banks to be located in Sinai. I think with the new investment laws that we're going to have in Egypt, that will make it easy for foreign banks to have privileges in Sinai, if that was possible.
Amen to that. Sir, because unfortunately we are running out of time, I want to really focus on that, on the Supreme Council for Investments, which was established according to the Presidential Decree number 141 to the year 2023, and the 22 draft resolutions after their first meeting, to just shed light on only 2 or 3, and of the most important ones, endorsing a 10-day approval process for all necessary requirements when establishing a company. Only 10 days.
Finally.
Yes.
Finally we did it.
Better late than never.
Right,
Okay.
finally. But we've always spoke about the one window system.
One-stop shop.
Right, and get rid of the red tape process that we used to have. I think we need to change the attitude that foreigners are not coming to exploit us. They're coming to invest, and we're going to gain out of this a lot of taxes, employment opportunities for our young people. I think this is a great thing that finally we've done it. Hopefully it will assist and help attract a lot of investments in Egypt.
The Council also approved amendments to the electronic signature law, and the amendments will make it easier to businesses to use electronic signatures, which will further streamline the business process.
Yes, this is, everybody approves of this, electronic signature. It's been used worldwide, and I think we're joining the club right now.
The Council also approved expanding the issuance of the golden license to companies that are not establishing strategic or national projects, as well as to companies established before the investment law of 2017, the golden license.
Well, this is something new, and I hope that it will actually attract a lot of international companies. We needed something like this to convince big companies to use Egypt as a center in the Middle East and Africa for their industries.
The Council approved the draft resolution to create a monitoring unit within the Cabinet to oversee the state-owned companies, and they are going not only to monitor but to report to the President and the Cabinet every 3 months.
Every quarter, which is worldwide. Everybody uses this. Every quarter, somebody should have a report. Our president is very thorough, and he will do the job himself. I think this means that it is very important, and the government should pay attention to the performance of these companies. The government own. We have a huge investment right now in this field. A lot of investments are owned by the government, and they should yield the expected profits, actually.
One of the most important hurdles or something which was really a source of complaints by many investors, it's double taxation. So, to reduce financial and tax burdens on investors, the Council approved a draft resolution which is regulated by clear mechanisms and conditions to impose improvement fees according to related laws. No more double taxation, no more a company and a mother company and to have taxes on both. No, this is not the case right now.
Yes, this is also a system that's been used worldwide. I think finally we're getting rid of the old school and we're joining the crowd when it comes to double taxation, actually.
And also going to, this is something which I really want to focus on, or to speak in more details of the priorities of the political leadership is to take care of those factories which had difficulties before and unfortunately closed their doors, but to try to amend their circumstances and to let them return back to the market, and meaning to have more job opportunities once again, and not to empower women and to empower youth. This is something which I also think is a big step forward.
They should have taken place about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. A lot of factories actually were shut down due to difficulties in finance, whatever. And I think we should have had a program to allow banks, certain banks, to participate in companies that have difficulties in developing new production lines. Temporary investment, like a bank should put a certain amount of money to upgrade the production of a certain company for 7 years. And the bank should have a representative on the board to watch the investment. And after the duration of this, I don't want to call it a loan, but it's an assistance to upgrade the production and eliminate the shutdown of the company, providing that this company produces a strategic material to our economy. I mean, you have to be very choosy who to support. So actually, this should have taken place some time ago in assisting a lot of companies that had difficulties, financial difficulties, and upgrade their production and
in all ways and by all means. What I'm going, the draft resolution I'm going to mention or to speak in detail about right now, it's adding to what you have said, sir. The Council approved a draft resolution to utilize the International Finance Corporation in order to contract with global consulting firm to develop a clear shared vision and strategy for investment in Egypt. Meaning, this is not only going to be the public sector role or the state's role, but we can benefit from international firms, entities. Yes. And this is going to be an added value to our private sector, because without a strong private sector, no country can continue on the right path.
Definitely.
How do you see using this and taking this into consideration in the very first meeting of the Supreme Council of Investment?
Finally, we're using the experience of the people that joined this council, because all of them have excellent experience, and we're now we're not really inventing electricity. We're just turning on the light, actually.
Yeah. Amen to that. But, sir, to have everything based on scientific rules, I really want to, again, focus on that. We are not going on with our development process haphazardly or not. Of course, there are calculated risks, and this is found everywhere. But to make sure that we are going on the right track based on scientific rules, on studies, feasibility studies, knowing well our requirements, what do we need, what we can afford, what we cannot afford. How do you see this and this transparency? I mean, these 22 resolutions were set to the whole world. All Egyptians now knew everything about this meeting and about these resolutions.
Well, let's hope that we will be able to see that, for instance, the Ministry of Industry makes an announcement that we require certain companies to invest in this particular field and that particular field in the field of steel production, billet production, whatever. All the sectors that we still lack, and I think once we announce this, an investor will approach the Ministry of Industry and gets the information, and he will have the chance then to invest in any particular field that he is specialized in.
Well, sir, tomorrow is a better day.
Definitely.
And inshallah, we are going to continue on the right path. We were celebrating the 30th of June Revolution, 10 years. And I think in those 10 years, we knew all that we are moving on to
a better
the new
future.
Republic, to Egypt in 2030.
Yes.
Sir, as usual, I enjoyed our discussion.
Thank you.
And we are going to leave you, sir, with a promise to see you again in more episodes of our program.
Thank you.
We were very much delighted to have with us live here in the studio our dear guest, Engineer Hassan Shaaban, our economic and agricultural expert. Well, of course, we are going to leave you also with a promise to see you again in another episode, same time on Nile TV International. With Money Means Business, we are going to tackle more economic files and more, inshallah, very promising files, very ambitious dreams. Not to be a dreams, but to be a process going on the ground. With all my love, this was Nermeen Abdurrahman.